Ring of Honor, July of 2004. We got Reborn completion and Death Before Dishonor. Now, when you turn on Ring of Honor in 2004, you pop that VHS in. What do you expect? Yep, I agree. You expect fireballs. You expect Baron von Raschke. You expect people getting thrown off balconies to their death. And don't you worry, all of that is here and more on the Apron Bump podcast.
Yeah. And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get it started. Yeah.
Whoa! What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump podcast. I am your host, of course, the hardest part of the ring, Kyle. Glad to have you guys here for a good old-fashioned helping, a healthy dollop of Ring of Honor from July 2004, covering this entire month of the Honorous Ring. Not one, not two, but three jam-packed shows coming at you from Ring of Honor. Really, some pretty good shows. A pretty good month. Pretty good month. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of things. It's a lot of shows, a lot of wrestling. It's roughly 9 hours of Ring of Honor. So we're not going to go into every single match here and there, but we might touch upon, at least give everything a little tickle. Probably, you know what I'm saying? But before we get into it, if you are interested in this era of Ring of Honor, maybe you're unfamiliar with it. Maybe you're somewhat familiar of it and you want to brush up. Maybe you are an expert and you want to challenge me on what I know and what I've watched. Whatever the case is, I've covered every single Ring of Honor show from the very first show in February of 2002 up until now, July of 2004. Every single show I've watched and covered. So if you want to binge away, go to apronbump.com, go to the episodes tab and select Ring of Honor. And that'll bring you to all the chronological events that I've covered. You can also go to the link in the description. Follow me at Apron Bump. I'm always bad at fucking plugging in the beginning. Follow me at Apron Bump on all the socials. Join the Discord. Yada, yada, yada. All right. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into it, baby. Ring of Honor. So let me pull up. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll have certain audio or visual. If you're listening on audio, you'll have the audio aids. I'll have visual aids on YouTube. Taking prep for it, though. So we got the cards up here for these three shows. I'll kind of just show them on screen. Real quick, I'll also post them in the description, probably, so you kind of know what we're getting into. So we got Reborn completion, which is night one. And during this episode, I'll be referring to shows as night one, night two, night three. So just let you know. But night one, we got Reborn completion coming at us on July 17th, 2004 from Elizabeth, New Jersey at the Rexplex. And then we got Death Before Dishonor night. It's night two, but it's night one. I'm just going to say that's going to be confusing. It's night two in terms of it's like the second show of this month, but it's Death Before Dishonor night one, whatever. Death Before Dishonor night two. Let's just say that. Coming at us from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. Am I pronouncing that right? Any Wauwatosa listeners of the Apron Bump out there? Call in if you know. But that'll be that'll be happening on July 23rd, 2004, and then night three. On July 24th, 2004, we got the second night of Death Before Dishonor, which we'll be referring to as night three, coming at us from Chicago, Illinois. So three big shows. We got titles on the line. We got inaugural champions. We got maybe some debuts. We got new factions. We got a new logo. I mean, gee willikers. Let's not dilly-dally. Let's get right to the meat and potatoes of this thing. The new logo's here, ladies and gentlemen. It is the it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I mean, it's the logo. It is just a logo, but it does kind of signify a new era because, night one, Reborn completion, the name of the show is Reborn. And there's been several different Reborn shows that I've covered on this podcast leading up to this one, which I think we're finally in the post Rob Feinstein era, signified by the new logo. We got new talents on the shows. We got new factions, new storylines. So just wanted to highlight that because this is the logo that I think of when I think of old school Ring of Honor. I'm surprised it took this long to establish it because, like I said, it is like what I always, whenever you see clips online of the golden era of Ring of Honor, you always see this logo on the mats and the barricades. So good to see that we're finally in this era of Ring of Honor. Some other stuff before we get into the individual stories and matches. We're still doing the Contenders Ring. The Contenders Ring. I went on a whole thing on it in last episode. But it's like the quote-unquote evolution of the rankings system. Because if you missed the last episode I covered of Ring of Honor, we're not doing the top 5 rankings anymore. We're doing the Contenders Ring. It's so, like I said, I talked about it in a previous episode, but it's basically like, think of like a circle. And if you're good enough to be within the circle, then that means you're in contention to fight for championships, but ultimately it's still down to the booking committee or whatever the fuck. So it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. And there's this whole thing where you got to be on 75% of the ballot to be in the Contenders Ring. Like Gabe Sapolsky on commentary is really driving this shit home. Every show he is, and it's just fucking stupid. And we'll touch on more reasons why it's stupid throughout the show. Just want to give an update. That's still a thing. They're still trying that. There's also, speaking of things that are different, quote unquote, but not really, there's a new code of honor. Ladies and gentlemen, a new code of honor. I think before there were like, 5 or 6 laws, but now there's 3 laws. What are the laws? Hardest part of the ring. Well, let me tell you. Let's be patient. Code number 1. Shake hands with your opponent before and after the match. Code number 2. Keep the playing field fair and level. No sneak attacks or interferences. Code number 3. Respect the officials. No beating up referees. Code number 3. So my question is, after hearing these new codes, which Gabe Sapolsky or Jimmy Bauer, his alias on commentary, he laid these out on the first show. And I'm looking at these new codes and I'm asking myself, aren't these the same fucking codes of honor? I think they just consolidated all of the codes and made it 3, and now it's a new code of honor. I bring this up not to split hairs on what the codes are or to analyze them. I bring this up to ask the one simple question. Who gives a fuck? Why is there a code of honor? It's a wrestling show. It's pro wrestling. There's guys in baby oil in little tights and shitty little boots pretending to fight each other. Can we stop? I know it's 2004. I know independent wrestling, they're trying to give us this new product, this sports-centric product, because WWE is pretty shit at this point. So people are hungry for something new, more based on the athleticism and the action in the ring. And I get it, but man, can we just let the shit in the ring speak for itself? No, none of these wrestlers give a fuck about the code of honor. Maybe shaking hands, but these shows are riddled with interferences and referees getting shit on. So who gives a fuck? And there's not even consequence if you were to break these codes of honor, by the way. Commentary really makes it a point to drive this fact home that these codes of honor, they're not binding. You're not going to get fined. You're not going to get a title stripped from you. You're not going to lose matches. You're just, and I quote, might have some heat with the boys in the back. Go fuck your hand. Just fuck your hand till it's fucking raw. But anyways, let's get into the wrestling. I think we should start out with something that got me really fucking jazzed. The Rottweilers So we've seen the Rottweiler. That's my Asian Tourette's acting up again. The Rottweilers. They've been slowly building themselves up. Julius Smokes. You may know him from. Yeah, that guy. He's the manager. I dare say the leader of this faction, along with Homicide and the Havana Pitbulls, which is a tag team comprised of Rocky Romero and Ricky Reyes, which I can't remember if I brought this up in the last episode. Isn't that weird that the Pitbulls are also Rottweilers? Is that incest? Or no, that's bestiality. No, it's not bestiality because it's... Well, is it bestiality if they're different breeds? Bartholomew, can you look that up? Get back to me with your findings. But yeah, so we got that. Those are the Rottweilers. So it's 4 guys. Soon to be 5, though. Who's going to be the 5th member? Well, you're just going to have to sit there and, or I guess you could Google it. I guess those are your options. But we'll get to that. Let's start off with night 1. We got the main event of this show. Yeah, we're going to start off with the main event. We do it big here. It's a 6-man tag team match to main event night 1, Reborn completion. We got the team of Samoa Joe and the Briscoes taking on the Rottweilers, comprised of Homicide, Ricky Reyes, and Rocky Romero, with Julius Smokes ringside. So to recap where we're at in this story, Samoa Joe and Homicide, they've had, I believe, 4 world title matches in the past, where Samoa Joe has come out on top each time. Now, Homicide has beaten Samoa Joe before in a non-title match, but for whatever reason, they never talk about it. But Homicide, Samoa Joe feud, I mean, it's been laced with fireballs to the face of Samoa Joe. You've had Homicide stealing the belts, this new belt that was presented to Joe, but then they just never acknowledged the new belt again. But that was the thing that happened. You had the CM Punk Samoa Joe 60-minute match where Homicide shit on the whole thing afterwards. He came out and tried to attack both of them, tried to ruin the moment. And just various beatdowns of Samoa Joe throughout the past couple months from Homicide. And he wants another shot at that Ring of Honor world title. And he's got his boys in the Rottweilers to help him accomplish that. So will that happen after the 6-man? Well, let's see. But that's basically where the feud is. Homicide and Samoa Joe. Because like at this point in Ring of Honor, guys have kind of come and gone. Guys like guys like Bryan Danielson, like he hasn't been around a lot in the past year or so. Steve Corino, I don't know where the fuck this guy is. I gotta sneeze. Who else? Christopher like the TNA Ring of Honor split has caused a lot of hullabaloo. We haven't seen Christopher Daniels in several months, or AJ Styles. So guys have come and gone. Donovan Morgan, he's in, he's out. But got the staples. The 2 staples. Actually, the 3 staples. Samoa Joe, Homicide, and the Briscoes. Those guys are always here. Those guys have been the MVPs of Ring of Honor up to this point, and they're all kind of intertwined in this feud. Samoa Joe and Homicide, we laid that out, but also Homicide knocked the fuck out of Jay Briscoe the last month and then did a post-match beatdown. And then Mark came out and him and Homicide were going at it. So the Briscoes and the Rottweilers are also kind of feuding, while Samoa Joe is also feuding with the Rottweilers. So therefore, Samoa Joe and the Briscoes have a common enemy, taking on the Rottweilers, which brings us to the 6-man match. So, as far as the match itself, fucking loved it. I mean, chaos right away. Opening bell. Brawling all around the ring. I mean, these 6 guys, just 6 killers in there. You know what you're going to get. It's going to be constant action, really stiff stuff all around the ring, inside the ring. Towards the kind of beginning of the match, Homicide whips out a flip phone. Apparently he's getting a call from somebody, which poses so many questions. Like, why do you have a phone? Like, is that not gonna like hinder you if you like get like slammed and land on the phone, like it's gonna leave a nasty bruise, homie. I don't know if he thought about that, but I guess he was anticipating calling somebody. I don't think he got a call. I think he called somebody, which I think will materialize later. But he comes back from his phone call and then starts wrestling, I guess. This match is really grueling. I noted a couple spots here that tickled my pickle in particular. We got Rocky Romero is just a joy to watch. We'll talk more about him in a second, but a lot of jiu-jitsu-esque type stuff that you see a lot nowadays, but you weren't seeing a lot back then, in combination with like the kickboxing element of his offense. Homicide just at one point he just fucking kills Jay Briscoe with a draping DDT off the top rope, plants him right on his head. Later in the match, there's a good bit of psychology that I really enjoyed here. So Rocky Romero has Jay Briscoe in an octopus stretch. So Rocky has this stretch in, so Ricky Reyes and Homicide come in to block any intervention from Briscoe's partners. So they're blocking, they're setting the blocks. Samoa Joe's starting to break through, but he's so big that they got to double up on Samoa Joe. It's like a fucking basketball play. It was just like, it wasn't like a crazy spot, but it was just like those little psychology tidbits just like, are like why these guys stand out among the rest at this point. But they double up on Joe, which allows Mark to make the save. Briscoes get some control here. They hit their springboard doomsday device onto Ricky Reyes for a 2 count. Mark Briscoe goes for a fucking shooting star press. And let me just pull this up. If you're listening in audio land, you could probably hear how devastating this was. Mark Briscoe lands right on his fucking head, dude. Let me find this real quick. Okay, so Ricky Reyes, he suplexes Jay, but Ricky's now on the ground. Gosh! Oh! No, dude. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Dude, how is Mark still like moving his extremities after that? I mean, look at this shit. God, I guess he tucked his head. I guess he like didn't fully commit to the shoot, to the flip. So he kind of landed like on the back of his head a little bit more so than just like, I don't know. He saved himself within a split second, which is fucking crazy, dude. But this match is just chaos. But as if that's not enough, Mark Briscoe, he almost broke his neck. But then what happens next is wizardry. He gets a fireball thrown in his face. And I noted down that I noted down that he got a fireball to the face from Homicide. And then the bell rings, by the way. That ends the match, which it should end a match. I would go as far to say, like, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I think fire is grounds for disqualifications in a pro wrestling contest. That's just me, though. Hot take. I get it. It's fire. But let's take a look at this, because I was confused as to what happened here. All right, so Joe. All right, so we got Joe standing tall right here. Everybody's down. I think that's Mark on his knee right there. Ricky Reyes is down in the middle of the ring. Homicide's in the corner doing some funny business. Watch out for that feller. What the fuck? Hold on. Now the fucking ring's on fire, and Joe's rolling Mark in the fire to put it out while seemingly trying to console him. I still am confused as to what happened. I think we need to roll this in like slow motion. Hold on 1 second. All right, Joe is going over to Homicide. What you got over there, fella? What is Mark doing? Why did he run? Why did he charge in there? I don't understand what Mark's game plan was here. Let's review the tape one more time, because I am befuddled at what's happening here. All right, Homicide's in the corner. He's gathering up the mana to generate the spell. Joe goes over to him. Mark Briscoe, what did Mark? He saw fire and he's like, let me get a taste of that, Homicide. Nom nom. And then Joe rolls him into the fire like a goofball. I know this Polynesian's used to his fire dancers, so maybe he's a little desensitized to it, but golly gee, Joe, can you support your partner a little bit? Not even support your partner. Not even support your partner. Hey, can you just like not burn him? Can you not just roll him in flames? Can you not medium rare sear this fella? That's all I ask from a partner, myself. So whatever. So this happens, and then Jay takes Mark to the back to get his face checked on, I guess, because why wouldn't you? And so this leaves Joe in the ring alone to get beat down by the Rottweilers. So Homicide and the Pit Bulls beat up on Joe. Homicide grabs the mic and says, "Nobody's gonna stop us. Nobody. There's nobody in the back that can stop us." That's a terrible Homicide, but he says that, which prompts the music of Low Key to hit. Haven't seen Low Key in quite some time. Couple months. It's had to have been a couple months at this point. Low Key gets in the ring, stands across from the Rottweilers. They're jawing at each other. Low Key grabs the mic and he says, "Nobody is gonna disrespect that title. Nobody except for me." And he takes the title and he wallops Samoa Joe with it. And he joins the Rottweilers. Low Key. Heel turn from old Low Key, which is apropos because commentary even... you can tell Gabe Sapolsky is like legit pissed with Low Key. Just like from the backstage, whatever the hell. Low Key's an asshole and now he's gonna embrace it, I guess. So he's joined the Pit Bulls and they gang up on Samoa Joe. And then we get this iconic image. Homicide rips the Ring of Honor banner off the barricade with the big new logo, takes it into the ring. Samoa Joe's lifeless corpse is in the middle of the ring. They lay this banner over Samoa Joe like a whatever, just laying it over him as if he was a dead person. And then the Rottweilers pose over him with this logo represented. Ushering in a new era of Ring of Honor, a new faction. Not really a new faction, but the final form, I would say, of the Rottweilers. What a fucking group of killers, man. Low Key, Homicide, Rocky Romero, Ricky Reyes, and Julius Smokes. I mean, that is a fucking group. That is a sick group, dude. Low Key, I mean, he continues, he says that Joe has run this company into the toilet, which I don't know if that's necessarily... I think there's other people at fault for any shortcomings from Ring of Honor. I think there's other people that might have had some say in that. But yeah, Low Key says that because he was the inaugural Ring of Honor World Champion. And he says that when he was champion, Ring of Honor was on top of the world, which I don't know if that's necessarily true. You had Abdullah the Butcher fucking bumbling around there with a fork. So I don't know if that's necessarily true. But Low Key thinks so. And he's here to restore the honor in Ring of Honor, which is interesting because he says he's going to be the next Ring of Honor champion, but the next night his buddy Homicide has a title shot. So there's some holes in logic there. There's some holes in logic, but yeah, crazy visual to end night one. Which brings us to night two. Sticking with the Rottweilers kind of theme throughout this month. Night two, we got the Rottweilers as a tag team comprised of Low Key and Rocky Romero, taking on the team of BJ Whitmer and Dan Moff, formerly The Prophecy. Not much to say about this match. It was a fun match. There were some fun strike exchanges throughout. Low Key's chops, Rocky Romero's kicks. Dan Moff, BJ Whitmer looked like legit killer powerhouses, throwing these guys all over the place. But ultimately, Rocky Romero taps out Dan Moff with an armbar, which is very significant because Dan Moff has been built pretty strong. I don't know if he's ever tapped out before. Maybe he has, but he's an ultimate tough guy. And the fact that Rocky Romero tapped him out really showed what Rocky is capable of. Really put him up on a really highlighted Rocky Romero and his skills. Put him over huge. But the real story here is after the match. And we're going to touch more on the Prophecy and Second City Saints feud to close out this episode, but just a taste here because the Rottweilers involved, so that's why I'm including it now. Rocky Romero taps out Dan Moff. And then Allison Danger comes out, who was still a member of the Prophecy. It used to be Allison Danger, Christopher Daniels, Dan Moff, BJ Whitmer. That was the Prophecy. But Daniels hasn't been around. And BJ and Moff basically quit the Prophecy, and now they're their own thing. But Danger still wants them to be Prophecy members. She still wants them to join back up with the Prophecy and reclaim their former glory or whatever the fuck. So Danger's like, hey, I'm gonna give you one last chance, Moff and BJ. Rejoin the Prophecy. This is your one last chance. And then Dan Moff, in that quote, says, fuck you. It's very dramatic and exaggerated. It's hilarious. And then Dan Moff shoves Allison Danger into Homicide. And Homicide, I guess if anybody touches him, he just gives him a cop killer, which is what happens here. Dan Moff shoves Allison Danger into Homicide, and just out of reaction, Homicide gives her a brutal cop killer, drops her right on her fucking neck, and she's stretchered out, which is yikes. Brutal stuff, but that plays into the Prophecy Second City Saints stuff later. So just a little nugget to keep in the back of your mind. But this brings us to the world title match on night 2. We got the champion, Samoa Joe, defending against Homicide. So I would assume this is the last match. I think I've said this for like the last 2 or 3 Joe Homicide matches, but I don't know where else they can go from this. Homicide, he's out there with his boys, Julius Smokes, Low Key, Rocky Romero. Rottweilers are circling the ring in this match. By the way, the crowd is chanting homicide at Homicide, which, come on, guys. That's not very nice. I think he's a heterosexual. But this is really riling up Homicide. He's ripping the barricades apart. He's threatening to rip the barricade and throw it into the crowd. Like, I think he's getting legit pissed here. If not, it's portrayed very well that he's a very unhappy fella. Homicide. But yeah, the match gets underway here. The Rottweilers, of course, they're all getting involved right away. They see the code of honor and they're like, not for me. They're not big code of honor guys, these Rottweilers. So the ref tosses them all to the back, like pretty much right away, within the first minute or two. So now we got a one-on-one match here. Homicide, Samoa Joe. I've talked about these matches before. It's a lot of... I mean, it's a great match. Like, these guys always kill it, but, you know, it's a lot of the greatest hits here. We got Joe with the Olay kicks on the outside. Samoa Joe, the stiff slaps and chops back and forth between these guys. The one little extra wrinkle in this match is that Homicide's really embracing the shitty little heel that he is. A lot of eye pokes and choking on the ropes and low blows and shit. So he's clearly very desperate to win this title. He's lost so many times. This might be his last shot, so he's going to do it by any means necessary. So that's really the theme of this match. Like, for example, Samoa Joe, he has this initial flurry, he hits the face wash in the corner, but Homicide's able to fight back. He's fighting back with forearms and suplexes, and at one point, Homicide rips his bandana off. Him and Joe, they go nose to nose. It's this really intense moment. They're like, who's the alpha? Who's the better man? And then he just pokes him in the eye. He's such a little shit, this Homicide. But Samoa Joe comes back. Beautiful tiger bomb. Goes for the choke. Homicide goes for a mule kick low blow. But Joe has this scouted and gets out of the way. And Joe hits Homicide with like a cobra clutch suplex, which looked gnarly. Dropped him right on his head. Super close 2 count here. Samoa Joe goes for the muscle buster off the top rope, which has finished off Homicide in the past, but Homicide has been here before, so he knows how to counter it now with an eye poke. Gets him out of this, but Joe's able to hit a normal muscle buster off the mats and gets a 2 count, which at this point nobody has kicked out of the muscle buster, so that was a huge moment for Homicide. Showing how badly he wants this. He will not die, this Homicide. Joe hits an island driver for another really close 2 count. And it's at this point Joe goes berserk. He doesn't know what it's going to take to finish this guy off. Homicide's on the ground. He's just kicking him in the head. Then he locks in the coquina clutch. And Homicide does not tap out, but he passes out. So Samoa Joe retains the title because Homicide's body fails him. He's out. Joe retains. And Joe will not release the choke. Bunch of refs come out. The locker room storms the ring to separate them. Nobody can get him off him until the Rottweilers come back out. Low key, the Rocky Romero, Julius Smokes. They lay the boots to Joe to get him off of Homicide. Low key locks in a choke on Samoa Joe. Now Joe passes out. And then the Rottweilers all take turns spitting on the title. It's like a weird form of bukkake, but with saliva. Just hawking loogies all over the Ring of Honor title. Low key, even at one point, he has the title in his hands. He spits on it, and then he like tilts the title. You could see the fucking spit just pour off of this title. It was just disgusting, dude. And then Jimmy Bauer, aka Gabe Sapolsky, on commentary. Clearly, this is the line that he was trying to drive home here. He says that the Rottweilers have raped the Ring of Honor title of its dignity. They've raped it of its dignity, Gabe says. So that's where we're at. That's what we're at. That's what we're doing. That's the verbiage we're using at this point in time for Ring of Honor. That's quite a choice. So Samoa Joe retains, but he's laid out. So we're not done here with Joe and the Rottweilers. On the way there, so we'll enter into night 3 here. Just wanted to highlight real quick that Rocky Romero has a one-on-one match with Chad Collier, in which Rocky Romero beats Chad with a Hurricane Rana floating right into an arm bar for the tap out, which Chad Collier, he's been pushed as this highly uber technical dude, can get out of anything, but he taps out here to Rocky Romero. So again, just furthering the point that we're really building Rocky Romero here, because he's kind of like, Homicide and Low Key are staples of Ring of Honor at this point. And not a lot of people know about Rocky Romero on the East Coast. So they did a really great job, I thought, at pushing Rocky here, showing that he was like a credible dude and he could beat guys. This match here in particular showed off his technical side. We didn't have all the hoopla and the interference and all that shit. He just beats Chad Collier straight up. So Rocky beats Chad Collier, and then also in night 3, that same card, Low Key beats Mark Briscoe, and Homicide beats Jay Briscoe. Very similar matches between the two. Like, we'll touch on Low Key and Mark Briscoe here. Both great matches in their own right. I don't want to paint the picture that it was just a copy paste job, because Low Key and Homicide ultimately are very different wrestlers. But it was basically, it's clear that the idea was to put each of these guys over individually. That way, when you see them all as a group, you know that it's a legit group of badass dudes. And I thought that they painted that pretty well here. Like I said, Low Key, Mark Briscoe. We're seeing this like new version of Low Key, where, because he used to be the guy, I'm all about honor. Ring of Honor, I shake hands. I don't cheat. I'm Low Key. But here he's doing, he's low blows and eye pokes. At one point he feints a knee injury to get the advantage. So Low Key's being a bit of a dick here, but then proceeds to methodically beat down Mark Briscoe with all these devastating kicks and chops. And even like his Low Key has probably the most devastating scoop slam that I've ever seen. He just tries to drive Mark through the mat here. And it's just, even his basics are so violent, which I think is what makes Low Key so engaging to watch in the ring. So good stuff here. Ultimately, Low Key wins when Julius Smokes distracts Mark Briscoe in the corner, and Low Key hits a running kick in the corner and then the Dragon Sleeper for the tap out. So Low Key wins, but only due to interference from Julius Smokes. And then after the match, Homicide and Rocky Romero hold up Mark Briscoe while he's on his knees in the middle of the ring. Low Key grabs the mic and he says, "Respect is either earned or taught. and you damn well didn't earn my respect. And then he slaps the shit out of Mark. But then the next match, Homicide versus Jay Briscoe. Again, very similar. Homicide's being a dick throughout the entire match. Low blows, eye pokes, being a little shit. Another good match, but ultimately Julius Smokes comes into play again in the finish. Distracts Jay Briscoe while he's on the top rope, and Homicide's able to capitalize and hit an avalanche. Butterfly suplex off the top, and then a huge lariat for the 1-2-3. So Homicide beats Jay Briscoe due to interference from Julius Smokes, similar to the low-key Mark Briscoe match. And again, low-key and Rocky hold up Jay, and Homicide says something. He gets on the mic. He's like, fuck you, you piece of shit, or whatever the hell. And then he slaps Jay. So both matches ended up with the Briscoes getting slapped by their opponent and laid out. So night 3, the Rottweilers went 3-0. Rocky beat Chad Collier. Low-key beat Mark Briscoe. Homicide beat Jay Briscoe. So we're really... The Rottweilers, by the end of this month, were a force. I mean, they've been kind of pussyfooting around. It's kind of been like a faux faction. It's like Julius Smokes talking about the Rottweilers. It's like, okay, is that a faction? But no, they are solidified. They're here. They're picking up wins. They're getting the job done in the ring, and they're doing the shit after the fact. They're just a bunch of thugs. Great shit from the Rottweilers. Great shit. But to close out Rottweiler talk, we got to talk about the night 3 world title match. Samoa Joe, who the previous night defended against Homicide successfully. Now on night 3, Samoa Joe is defending against Colt Cabana. Why is Colt Cabana getting the title shot? Well, allegedly he's in the contenders ring. He got 75% votes on the ballot from the whatever the fuck. But in reality, Colt Cabana, he pinned Samoa Joe in Survival of the Fittest last month. That's why he's getting a title match. It's none of this voting, no ballots, no board meetings or the committees getting together and mulling over, who's gonna get a title shot? Oh no, let's look at the statistic. No, he fucking pinned the champion, now he gets a title shot. That's how it works. Assholes. But Colt's here, getting a title shot. It was cool to see Colt Cabana in the spotlight. Big Colt Cabana guy. I mean, he's super over with the crowd. He has these goofy little segments backstage, the good times, great memories, like talk show type deal. And even within the matches, he's a funny guy. Like, I know I might be breaking new ground here, but Colt Cabana, he's a funny fella. And the crowd's really warming up to him. They love Colt Cabana. He got a huge reaction coming out, and was getting great reactions throughout the match. And Colt Cabana is also establishing himself as the master of the roll-up. He debuted a new finisher at the last show. I forget what he calls it, but it was just a fucking roll-up. It was like a full Nelson into a cradle type of thing. He's been beating people with it. So the question is, can Samoa Joe, because Samoa Joe has been unbeatable for the past 16 months that he's been champion. But maybe a wrestling maneuver like that will be able to keep him down for just 3 seconds, because that's all it takes, folks. 3 seconds. So that's the story of the match, mate. But Samoa Joe, I mean, he's kind of kicking the shit out of Colt Cabana for most of this match, but Colt Cabana fights back. He hits Samoa Joe with the Olay kicks, which you don't see that a lot. Joe locks in the ring. Joe locks in the choke. Colt Cabana counters into a roll-up. 1-2 kick out. Samoa Joe gets up and just decapitates Colt Cabana. Just when you thought Colt might have had it, Samoa Joe quells that momentum. Colt Cabana fights back, though. He's getting momentum again. He's going for his finisher. He can't quite get it, but he might have him here. He has Samoa Joe in the corner. Colt Cabana runs into the opposite corner to kind of propel himself back into the opposite corner, but Samoa Joe follows him. Meets him in the corner as Colt is like on the second rope. Samoa Joe stops him, and Colt is already in position for the Muscle Buster. Samoa Joe locks it in, hits the Muscle Buster, and gets the 1-2-3. So Samoa Joe retains once again. 2 nights in a row, Samoa Joe retains the title. Really, I mean, I'm really enjoying this title reign from Samoa Joe. It took a while to kick in. It took a while. Beating guys like fucking Xavier and BJ Whitmer and Dan Moff as a singles guy. Like, I don't know, man. Doug Williams. Like, they're fine matches, but it was missing something. And I think he's really starting to tap into what makes Samoa Joe, even to this day. He's carrying this company, man. Samoa Joe. I'm a big Samoa Joe guy. He's on my personal Mount Rushmore. It's really, really fun to watch his title reign unfold here. But Samoa Joe gets another win, and the Rottweilers are back. They beat down Joe again. This is Samoa Joe. I mean, he needs to get some friends. Oh, wait, he has some. The Briscoes are out here. With steel chairs, the Briscoes come out, run off the Rottweilers with steel chairs. And then the last image you see from this show, or from this segment, I guess, you got Joe back up. He's flanked by the Briscoes, both with steel chairs, and the Rottweilers flee to the back. So that's the last image you see, which leads me to believe that we're not done here. But I'm enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying it. I'm sure we're going to get like a low-key Samoa Joe match at some point. At least I hope we do. I'm good on Homicide Joe for a while. I'm good. Like, they've done good stuff, but where else can we go at this point? So that's cool. So that's fun. But the Rottweilers are not the only faction here in Ring of Honor. In fact, there's arguably a more significant faction. Arguably. And that's Generation Next. Now, we've talked a lot about Generation Next in the past couple episodes. How they came together. Alex Shelley, Austin Aries, Jack Evans, Roderick Strong. 4 relative newcomers that have come together and have used their numbers to dominate Ring of Honor. Now, are we going to get a Generation Next Rottweilers face-off at some point? I hope so, but we're not there yet. Generation Next. Where do we start? Where do we even start here? Let's start off with night one. Just to kind of set the tone here for Generation Next. Night one, we got Jack Evans and Roderick Strong taking on Special K, represented by Dixie and Izzy. Now, we don't see a lot of Special K this month. And here's why. Generation Next just kicks the shit out of these poor boys. Particularly Roderick Strong looked like a beast here. His chops, all of his backbreakers and power moves. I mean, Special K, they're like twinky little breakdancing kids, and then Jack Evans is kind of along the same vein. Roderick Strong is a beast. He's just tossing these guys all around here. Argentine backbreakers. Him and Jack Evans are teaming up. There's one point where Roddy has one of the Special K guys on his shoulders. Jack Evans comes off the top rope, hits a stomp on this guy on Roddy's shoulders, and then moonsaults onto the second guy. It's just a great showcase here for Generation Next. Special K got some shine, but ultimately they got pretty squashed here. So Roddy hits a Yakuza cutter onto Dixie, and then Evans hits a 630 on him to follow up for the pin. So Generation Next wins this match. And then later on the show, Special K, they're like, there's almost like a civil war within Special K, and they're like, oh, the party's over type of deal. So they're sad. Special K are sad boys, which I hate to see. But Generation Next moves on. After that win, they get involved in a little segment here. Also on night one. We got another, and this is going to involve Generation Next. We got CM Punk and Ricky Steamboat. Another confrontation between these two. Now, I know I can't blame Ring of Honor for utilizing Ricky as much as they can. I don't know if I'm sure there's like Lloyds of London implications here as to why Ricky can't have like legit matches. But we have another confrontation here with Ricky Steamboat and CM Punk, who they've been having wars of words over the past month or two. They've gotten physical. Ricky's beat up CM Punk with arm drags and his deal, right? The palms to the chest, whatever you call that. And then CM Punk retaliated with the old Macho Man bell shot to the throat off the top rope. it's been pretty brutal. They've put the Saints have put Steamboat through tables. I mean, it's been a lot. It's been a lot, and it all culminates here. This seems like the last time. Why? Because of the following. So, GMC comes out. He says, we got another confrontation between CM Punk and Ricky Steamboat. CM Punk comes out. He gets in the ring. Ricky Steamboat comes out. Again, by the way, not in fighting attire. He's got blue jeans with a polo tucked in. You would think he's like, I don't know, put on some sweatpants or a wife beater of some sort. Sorry, wife lover. Is that what we're calling him now? But Ricky comes out and there's no talking this time. They just immediately start brawling with each other. It's a brawl, but it's like paced like a wrestling match. Like they're calling spots. They're whipping each other into the rope. It's funny how they're kind of getting around whatever the hell they have to get around. Steamboat with a 10 count punches in the corner on Punk. Punk hits a pile driver on Ricky Steamboat. Punk then goes for the ring bell again. He's going to go off the top rope with his bell. But this time, Ricky thwarts it. Throws Punk off the top rope. Ricky gets his hand on the ring bell and stands over CM Punk with it, threatening him. Ricky grabs a mic and he says, Punk, you got the talent, but you need to get rid of that gosh darn attitude. I know what you can be. And it's at this point, as CM Punk is in a perilous position, Generation Next storms the ring. They attack Ricky Steamboat from behind. They gang up on him. Ricky's down. Now CM Punk stands over Ricky Steamboat. He grabs the mic. He says, Ricky, you're right. I do have the talent. And you want me to be the man that you think I can be? Well, I'll show you. And then CM Punk attacks Generation Next. Takes them out one by one until he doesn't. Until the numbers catch up with him. Generation Next gangs up on CM Punk. But who comes to the save? None other. How the turns have tabled. Ricky Steamboat saves CM Punk from this beatdown. Him and Punk team up to take out Generation Next. They clear house. And then Ricky and CM Punk look at each other in the middle of the ring. And they fist bump. Man, what a journey. What an arc it's been between these two. Coming at each other with all these words, these heated words, these fists. But wouldn't you know it, it's just because they love each other so much. My goodness, my goodness. So CM Punk and Ricky Steamboat, I guess, respect each other now, even though CM Punk 5 minutes ago was trying to debilitate him for life with a ring bell. But bygones be bygones. I don't know if this is like the plan all along with the Steamboat and Punk stuff, or if it was just like Ring of Honor's sensing how organically over CM Punk is getting at this point, especially after that 60-minute match with Samoa Joe. Punk is super loved by the fans, so him and Steamboat, I mean, how long can that be drawn out? So now they're on the same side. They don't want to boo CM Punk. So it seems like we're just transferring the heat from CM Punk over to Generation Next. So now we got Generation Next feuding with Ricky Steamboat. So that's kind of where we go forward with that, because that was night one, that whole thing that I just described. Which brings us to night two, which fucking, if you thought Ricky Steamboat was something, night two opens up with Baron von Raschke. Baron von Raschke, ladies and gentlemen. So we're in Wisconsin here for night two. I don't know is he a Wisconsin guy? I assume, right? The Claw. Not very familiar with BVR, but Baron von Raschke comes out, huge pop. Just, I don't know, just give it up for Baron. Just showing him off. But then Generation Next comes out. They don't care for this kind of hoopla for these legends. These Generation Next scoundrels, they don't have a lot of respect for the veterans of this industry. So they surround Baron. They're going to attack him. But who comes out? The Second City Saints come out to make the save. CM Punk, Ace Steel, Colt Cabana, They save Baron. They clear house. They take out Generation Next. They go fleeing. Except for Jack Evans. Jack Evans is alone in the middle of the ring. He turns around and he gets a claw to the face from Baron von Raschke. Still moving well, this Baron. He's got to be at least 178 years old at this point. But he's moving around well. He's got that claw. It's still strong. The arthritis might be kicking in, but not at full force yet. So shout out Baron von Raschke. I don't know if I've ever said that on this podcast before, but just continuing the Second City Saints and Generation Next feud that will continue throughout this month. And at this point, the Second City Saints, I mean, they're established. CM Punk and Colt Cabana, still the tag team champions, by the way. And just probably the most beloved faction, I guess, at this point. And Generation Next, I mean, they're heating up, but they're still building themselves. And that's highlighted here in this also. So that the night 2 continues with a 6-man tag match. Generation Next, represented by Austin Aries, Jack Evans, and Roderick Strong, take on the team of Jimmy Jacobs, John Walters, and Matt Striker. Basically, all I'll say, first of all, Jimmy Jacobs is so fucking over. I don't know why. He's still doing like the Bruiser Brody, the Huss deal, and I don't know, the crowd loves it. Like, God bless him, I guess. John Walters, Matt Striker. They're, I guess, an official tag team. I mean, they're wearing the same colored trunks, so I would assume they're an official tag. They're both just like middle of the road, like good technical wrestlers, but they're missing that kind of something. Like when you think of Ring of Honor legends, nobody ever brings up John Walters or Matt Striker, even though they're good wrestlers. So it seems like they're kind of pushing forward this tag team endeavor between the two, and they got a lot of fun tag team offense. They do this one where Matt Striker has a guy on his shoulders, like in an electric chair position, and then John Walters comes from behind with a backstabber, leaps from the ground up to the guy on his shoulders, and then hits a backstabber off of his shoulders. Really sick move. They do like a pop-up powerbomb where I think it's Matt Striker throws the guy in the air like behind him, and then Walters catches him into a powerbomb. Like, these guys were meant to be a tag team. Like, they seem like they could be a fun tag team. I don't know how long that'll last, but I'm wondering if this is like the beginning of the, not the downfall of John Walters and Matt Striker, but it's like, have they peaked? Have these guys peaked? Like, I'm sure they'll have like pure title like implications in the future, but I don't think we'll be seeing them in the main event down the line. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. But that being said, Generation Next gets another win. Oh, no, they don't. I lied. I'm just here lying to you. Generation Next actually loses. Maybe they're still reeling from the Baron von Raschke hullabaloo earlier. Towards the end of the match, Jack Evans misses a 630 onto John Walters. Walters gets out of the way, and then Walters locks in this crazy, like, it's like half a Muda lock and half a choke with his legs. I don't know. He ties up Jack Evans like a pretzel, and Jack Evans has to tap out. So this team of Walters, Striker, and Jacobs gets the win over Generation Next, which is very interesting because, Generation Next, they're in the thick of it in this main event, or they're at least about to be. So maybe we're just building up. Maybe the frustration and the anger is building within this faction. I don't know. Time will tell. Which brings us to night 3. I wasn't going to talk about this match, but it ended up just being so fucking good that I have to. Alex Shelley versus Jimmy Jacobs, 1-on-1. Now, if you'll remember, these two came in together. Two, I think, Michigan guys, of course, Motor City. Two Michigan guys that came in together as a tag team, eventually broke off, had some animosity. They lost a few matches, and then Shelley blamed Jimmy Jacobs for these losses, so it said he was the weak link, and then he went off and started his own faction. So it's all culminated to here. Shelley versus Jacobs. And I mean, you could tell, like I said, they came in together, and you can tell, you can sense the chemistry that they've built over. I mean, they're still very new into wrestling. Maybe like 2 years, maybe, these guys. Just a super tight, clean match, like just enough innovation, but also good selling, good chain wrestling. Just really, it was a just a fun match. Like, that's really all I can say about it. Jimmy Jacobs is a really great underneath guy in peril. Like, he's like a Twinkie kind of guy, like scrawny, but like the crowd loves him. Really good at fighting from underneath. Shelley goes for the shell shock, but Jacobs counters it into a Blade Runner type move. Like lots of like Ushi-Goroshi, cross-legged brain buster type of moves. A lot of neck-based offense in this match. Jimmy Jacobs hits this senton, which is like, he hits the senton, but he like almost breaks his neck doing it, but it looked devastating. It's like, think of a senton, right? Like the guy's on his back in the ring. You walk up to him, you jump, and you land back first onto the guy. But Jacobs decides to land neck first on the guy, which made him look like a missile driving into him, which looked devastating for both guys. But all that to say, both guys are laying it out all on the line here. Crowd super into it. Alex Shelley hits a belly-to-back suplex and floats seamlessly right from that into the Border City stretch. And Jimmy Jacobs has to tap out. So Alex Shelley gets the win here and kind of builds the prestige or the credibility of Generation Next. Just a standout match between these two guys. Two guys that are still very new at this point, but I liked what they put out there. I liked it. But then also on night 3, you got the other Generation Next guys, Roderick Strong and Jack Evans, taking on the team of John Walters and Matt Striker. Jack Evans gets a "You Are White" chant, which is fun. Again, just more like great double teams from both these guys. Roderick Strong and Jack Evans. Like, there's one point where Strong like flips Jack Evans into a standing 450. Walters and Striker hit those tandem like backstabber and powerbomb moves that I described earlier in this match. Ricky Steamboat comes out here to kind of even the odds a little bit on the sake of John Walters and Matt Striker. So obviously still upset at Generation Next for trying to attack him the previous night. Towards the end, Ricky Steamboat is chasing Alex Shelley around the ring. Shelley slides in the ring so that Ricky follows him in the ring. So he chases him through the center of the ring, back onto the outside, and Aries blindsides him in the aisleway, because Aries wasn't out there originally. So Austin Aries comes from the back and mugs Ricky Steamboat while in the ring. Roderick Strong hits a Widow's Peak onto John Walters for the win. So Alex Shelley got a win in singles, and Jack Evans and Roderick Strong get a win in tag. We'll talk more on what Austin Aries did. But Generation Next, again, similar to the Rottweilers, picking up wins, establishing themselves as a beast faction in their own right. So between them and the Rottweilers, Ring of Honor's got some pretty fucking good factions at this point, which at this point, like I said, factions have kind of come and gone. The Prophecy has been a very loosely kind of followed thing. It's been very fluid. You had Steve Corino's shitty little group there, like in 2002. Not a lot of long-standing factions in Ring of Honor up to this point, but between the Rottweilers and Generation Next, both are killing it at this point. So loving what I'm seeing from those two factions. But you know who else is killing it? You know who else has been killing it from day one? It's the Carnage Crew. Let's talk about DeVito and Loke, shall we? And their feud with Masada and Danny Daniels. If you'll remember, the Carnage Crew found duty in their bags, and they went on this tirade for several months trying to figure out who befouled their bags. Come to find out, it's their brothers, their former Carnage Crew brothers, Masada and Danny Daniels. So now Masada and Danny Daniels are claiming that they're the new and improved Carnage Crew. Is that a fact? Well, we're going to find out here. Night 1, we have a losing team must break up weapons match, not a street fight, a weapons match. The winner, or the loser, as per the title of the match, the losing team has to break up and they can never team again. So of course we have DeVito and Loke taking on Daniels and Masada. The original Carnage Crew taking on the new Carnage Crew. It's Carnage. I mean, as per the name, Carnage, Chaos, whatever you want to call it. What weapons do we got here? We got crutches. We got chairs, tables. A toolbox comes into play. Blood everywhere. Everybody's bleeding. People are getting slammed on chairs. At one point, H.C. Loke has a wrench, and he's fishhooking Danny's mouth with it. It's very unsanitary. DeVito's smashing Masada with crutches, and they're splintering all over the place. H.C. Loke is taking all the tools and beating everybody up with it. At one point, he kicks the toolbox, and tools go flying into the crowd. Hits a Mexican child in the fourth row. Feels like a fight, though. It's a lot of chaos, but it's fun. It's some fun shit. At one point, the Carnage crew, the original Carnage crew, they set up a table bridge in between the ring and the barricade. And H.C. Loke hits a swinging neck breaker to Masada off the apron through the table. And the finish comes. Danny Daniels is in the middle of the ring with a trash can around his body. You know, that old gag. Carnage crew, DeVito and Loke, each have aluminum baseball bats. And they take turns smashing the fuck out of Danny with this trash can around his body. The sound of, listen to this shit.
Energy, and he's got some baseball bats.
Jesus Christ. What in tarnation? Poor Danny. But yes, that gets the win. The original Carnage crew pins Danny there. And they maintain the Carnage crew name. So Masada and Danny Daniels must split up. What a run. What a run those guys had in their entire 2 matches that they had teaming together. But big Carnage crew chants after the match, by the way. These guys are so, like, they're the workhorses of Ring of Honor up to this point. They've been there since, I was talking about, like, staples of Ring of Honor earlier, and Carnage crew I should have named them as well. Between their feuds with Special K, with the Hit Squad, and just all these, like, crazy street fights they've had over the course of the 2 years. I hope these guys get their hands on tag team titles, or at least are in the picture, because these guys deserve more of a spotlight, in my opinion. Just so consistently fun to watch, the Carnage crew. The characters also, they hate their wives, they hate their jobs, so they find solace in the ring and beating people up. So good shit there. Let's get these guys in the title picture, is what I'm saying. By the way, Danny Daniels and Masada, in case you're wondering, I think Masada, he's no longer with Ring of Honor after this, and Danny Daniels just goes back to being a wrestler in a singlet, as if this never happened. So thank God that's over, is what I'm saying. So that's where we're at with the Carnage crew. The arc of Duty in the Bags is over. Let's talk about, so from Duty in the Bags, how do you transition from that to the pure title? I don't know. Let's try this way. Let's start talking about the pure title now. A title that we haven't seen in a while. So the initial pure championship, which was referred to as the pure wrestling title, we crowned the inaugural champion, which ended up being AJ Styles, as a result of a single elimination tournament. However, the Rob Feinstein stuff happened. TNA pulled out. And now, so AJ can't wrestle for Ring of Honor anymore, even though he holds that title. So what do? Let's create a new title. And it's no longer the pure wrestling title. It is now the pure title. I don't know, man. But I had a lot of, and I think I talked about this in the last Ring of Honor episode, I had a lot of criticisms with how they approached the pure title at first. Like the fact that AJ Styles and CM Punk was the match to crown the first champion. It didn't feel like that was, it made it feel like a what do you want to call it? Like a secondary title. It made it feel secondary. It made it feel like a consolation prize for not being able to win the world title. But the pure title is like a whole different division. It's a whole different set of rules. It's a whole different set of criteria. It's a different division. It's a different feel. It's a different match type, which is what I like. It's what I like to see out of secondary, quote unquote, titles. So with this new pure title, it seems like that's more of the direction that they're going in. Guys like John Walters, Matt Stryker, Chad Collyer, like that's who should be fighting for this title. I talked about Walters and Stryker earlier, how they're kind of like in the middle, like not really, they don't have a lot of momentum going as far as like competing for the world title, but they could enter this pure division and just, establish themselves there, establish a whole new style of wrestling, really. So that's this month did a great job at establishing this title, I'll say, and I'll walk us through the journey that we took with this title. Now, first of all, let me lay this out here. So, night 1, Reborn. We have 2 4-way matches. The winners of those 2 4-way matches will face each other in a 1-on-1 pure rules match to crown the new inaugural pure champion. The first 4-way is John Walters versus Doug Williams versus Nigel McGuinness versus Jay Lethal. Not Hydro, Jay Lethal. So if you've been following along, Jay Lethal debuted as a member of Special K with the name Hydro, which what the fuck is a Hydro, first of all? And Samoa Joe, by the way, even that night 1 opens up with a backstage promo from Samoa Joe, and he runs into Jay Lethal. And he tells Jay, like, dude, you're better than this Special K shit. What is a Hydro, he says. You're Jay Lethal. You have the talent to make it out on your own. Pumps him up and gets him ready for this 4. He has a great opportunity here, Jay Lethal does. So Samoa Joe's trying to beat this into Jay Lethal, figuratively, for now. So I thought that was a fun little interaction and set up the 4-way pretty well, this first one. And Jay Lethal's out here. He has tights, boots. He's not wearing the fucking baggy pants and the beater. He's a wrestler now, Jay Lethal. Doug Williams comes out to a huge reaction. People love Doug Williams. That European style is so foreign to the U.S. audience at this point, and the same for Nigel McGuinness. And the fact that Doug Williams and Nigel McGuinness are in the same match is bonkers at this point. Any interaction they had was just a treat. Like that's what pure wrestling should be. That British style. It's a style. Even CM Punk is on commentary for this match, and he's even like, a lot of people try to copy that European style, but they all do it like crap. But then you have Doug Williams and Nigel in there just doing it as it should be. And then John Walters is a great, like he's one of those guys that I feel like should be in this division. So it's good to see him in the mix as well. Super hard hitting match this one was. And by the way, I got to bring up this one sequence here, and I'll bring up the telestrator too. Let's analyze this. And I'll slow it down a little bit. Let's see here. Playback speed. Let's do 0.75. So we got Nigel McGuinness and Doug Williams in the ring. Jostling, perhaps. Doug Williams, his head is in between Nigel's legs. He's in a head scissors. He's trying to escape. So he tries to do this little deal here, a little handstand out of this, but he gets pile driven from a seated position from Nigel. Take a look at this. Ouch, right? So Doug sees this, right? And he's like, all right, maybe if I reverse it, maybe go 69 style, maybe that'll confuse Nigel. So he turns his hips, dick in face, right? Dick in face, but also dick in face. So now we got this, like, is this a 69? It feels more like a 96. Not sure, but Doug's trying to escape this head scissors. It's locked in pretty tight, as you can see. It's a unorthodox way of escaping this particular hold, but Doug Williams is a master and I am not. So let's see what he does here. All right, he's trying to escape, can't do it. Nigel has it blocked. All right, now we're just hanging out here, right? At this point, Doug, I think he's playing with his food, so to speak. I don't think he really has a plan to get out of here, is my thought. But John Walters sees this and he's like, I don't know if he's jealous, or if he's just horned up. He wants to get in on the action, as John Walters here, as you can see with the red coming in on your left. But he sees Jay Lethal trying to also get into play. He's like, Jay, 3's a crowd, 4 is too much, or whatever the saying is. He thwarts Jay getting involved in this into this Lincoln Logs mousetrap contraption. So he stops Jay. He says, you know what, Jay, you want to be a part of this? I'm going to make you a part of this. So he whips Jay into the ropes, and then all right. So what do we got here? We got a square of flesh. To paint the picture, if you're not watching, Nigel is on his back on the ground. Doug is doing a handstand amidst the crotch of Nigel. Jay is in the air in the crotch of Doug, and then Walters is completing the square on the other side. Is this a human centipede? I'm thinking this might be a human centipede action. It's like an advanced level human centipede. I mean, I've heard of an A. I've heard of a uppercase H. I've heard of an Eiffel Tower. I don't know what you would call this. Like, I don't even know how you could really kind of finish while also maintaining the core stability and just the overall endurance of it. I mean, it's impressive, if nothing else. Like, I'm not here to say I don't like this, because I do. This is very unorthodox, and I don't know if I mean, is this what the pure title's all about? If so, sign me up. Let me challenge for it tomorrow. So, how does this even end? I forget. And Jay gets fucking pile driven on his head. He goes from erotic to paraplegic within a matter of seconds. So, that's just the ebbs and flows of professional wrestling when you really think about it. So, that being said, it was a good match. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing a lot. But ultimately, Doug Williams wins with the Chaos Theory. Hits it on Jay Lethal for the 1-2-3. So Doug Williams gets the win here and moves on to the finals to crown the new pure champion. Very fun match, very creative spots, hard hitting. Like I said, anytime Doug and Nigel were in there, it just got me all goosed up in the underpants region. So where are we at here? So Doug moves on. Who else moves on? Who's gonna face Doug? You may be asking. Let me tell you. The next four-way match is CM Punk versus Alex Shelley versus Matt Striker versus Austin Aries. So we got two members of Generation Next represented here, in Alex Shelley and Austin Aries. And then you got CM Punk and Matt Striker. So, of course, the Generation Next guys are going to team up. So this kind of forces Punk and Striker to team up to kind of even the odds a little bit to establish a level playing field. And Punk and Striker don't like each other. So how are these guys going to get along? How are they going to coexist? Well, they don't. Punk and Striker can't get on the same page. They're trying to like roll each other up and get the win over each other. But Generation Next is still a stable team working together well, like a well-oiled machine. So they were able to get the advantage. They beat down on Punk for a bit. Matt Striker makes the hot tag, which it's not a tag team match, but it's a four corners match. So they're like tagging in and out. I don't know. It's a whole stupid thing. But Striker makes the hot tag, hits a Death Valley driver onto Austin Aries, locks in the Striker lock onto Alex Shelley. But then Austin Aries hits a 450 splash to break it up. And Punk hits a Shining Wizard to Austin Aries. I mean, there's some fun spots here. Little waterfall segment was really well done. Punk and Striker try to work together a little bit, but there's full of miscommunications. So they basically take each other out. And then Alex Shelley ends up rolling up Matt Striker in a victory roll to get the 1-2-3 out of nowhere. So Alex Shelley gets the win here and moves on to the finals to face Doug Williams for the pure title. But before we get there, Punk grabs the mic and he says, "Hey, Alex Shelley, you didn't beat me. You didn't get one over on the Second City Saints. you're just going to be added to the list of guys that I've driven out of this company. And then he references Raven and Christopher Daniels. So we're still adding fuel to the Second City Saints Generation Next feud, which keep that in the back of your mind. But before that, we got to crown a new pure champion, ladies and gentlemen. We're here. Doug Williams, Alex Shelley for the pure title. Maybe, as far as just pure wrestling, because we have a lot of like crazy street fights and schmozzes. As far as like one-on-one matches, this might be my match of the month. Pure title, so it's pure rules. So just as a reminder, the rules of a pure title match. There, you get 3 rope breaks. So if you use 3 rope breaks throughout the match, then you can't use any more. So you can get submitted within the ropes, and you can't use ropes to break up pins, etc., etc. You get 3 rope breaks. There's no punching to the face, and there's a 20 count on the floor. Because typically in Ring of Honor, there's no count outs, but in pure title rules matches, there are. So we got Doug Williams and Alex Shelley, and my first thought is, this is more like it. This is what the pure title should be. Doug Williams, Alex Shelley. 2 great chain wrestlers. You got Doug with the British style. You got Alex Shelley with the you can tell his style is influenced by British wrestling, but he also has other like Americanized elements to his offense and defense. 2 guys that aren't really main eventers in Ring of Honor, but are always in the mix. This is what the pure division should be. So very, very happy with what the matchup is, and even happier with how the match played out, because this was good shit. Again, just lots of chain wrestling in the beginning, really establishing what the pure division should be. Just very methodical counters. Alex Shelley, he's favoring his left elbow, which remember he wrestled earlier in the show, as did Doug Williams, but apparently Alex Shelley injured his left elbow in that match, so he's favoring it throughout the entrance and throughout the match. So Doug, of course, targets the elbow. Psychology 101. Doing various submissions and strikes to the arm. And as I'm watching this, I'm just thinking to myself, man, it cannot be understated how amazing this is to the American audience in 2004. I mean, wrestling in 2004, July. You know what was happening in July of 2004? Fucking Great American Bash 2004. Luther Reigns versus Charlie Haas. You have Mordecai. You got Heidenreich. You got JBL as champion. You got whatever the fuck. You got whatever Gene Snitsky or Mark Jindrak and the Bash. Like, you don't see technical wrestling anywhere else. Maybe TNA, but to the mainstream audience, you're not seeing that. So it's almost like mundane now. This counter wrestling, the discreet like holds and counters, and it's so fun to watch, man. And especially when you put yourself in 2004, it was just like, it's like magic. It's like pure wizardry in 2004. But Doug is pretty much getting the better of all the exchanges. A lot of it due to the injury to Shelley's arm. Doug wrenches the arm of Shelley behind his back and throws him into the corner, then follows it up with an arm lock of some sort. And this forces Alex Shelley to use his first rope break. Shelley finds himself in another arm lock but doesn't want to use another rope break, so he has to fight out, and he does with an enziguri. Gives him the advantage. You got Shelley busting out a curb stomp. Shelley goes to lock in a Fujiwara armbar, but Doug counters it into one of his own, and Shelley has to use a second rope break. Doug hits a Rocky Maivia shoulder breaker onto Shelley. Goes to the top rope, hits his bomb scare knee drop right into a bridging armbar, and Shelley has to use his third rope break. So now Shelley has no rope breaks left, and Doug has all 3 of them. Shelley tries to fight back, hits a top rope stomp to the back of Doug's head. Shelley's thriving in this match when he's using more strikes and high-flying moves. And whenever he tries to chain wrestle Doug, he ends up on the bottom. Shelley hits a shell shock for a 2 count. So he's starting to target. He's been targeting Doug's neck throughout this match. So he hits a shell shock for a 2 count. But Doug fights back, locks in a hammerlock dragon sleeper in the ropes. So they're tied up in the ropes, but Shelley has no more rope breaks. So the ropes don't save him here, and Shelley is forced to tap out. And Doug is your first ever pure champion, which couldn't name a better guy to be the first pure champion, to establish this division. I'm going to keep harping in it. That's what the pure division should be, in my opinion. I mean, he celebrates with the belt and the Union Jack flag. I mean, it just all makes sense. This whole image makes sense to me. Great match. Really fun. Doug Williams didn't even have to use any rope breaks, which is like, okay, the pure champion should be that kind of guy who can fight out of any hold. But also you have the Shelley, he had the injured arm. Maybe he was at a disadvantage. So it leaves a lot in the air, which brings us to night 2, where they have a rematch. Which, it's a lot of the same stuff, but Shelley gets more offense this time. He even forces Doug to use some of his rope breaks here, because they're both on a level playing field now, and Shelley has Doug more scouted this time. He even counters the chaos theory into a prawn hold, almost gets the win, but Doug kicks out. Shelley hits his head stomp for a 2 count. Doug goes for the chaos theory, but Shelley keeps blocking it. He keeps grabbing the ropes. He's seen this before. He knows it leads to victory. So he keeps trying to grab the ropes to counter it. But at some point, he uses all of his rope breaks, so Doug can just keep yanking them. And eventually, he loses grip, and Doug hits the chaos theory for the win in their rematch. So Doug beats Alex Shelley again in night 2, but a much closer matchup. So we'll see if they fight each other again down the road. But just 2 great matches from those guys, and that's not even it. Night 3, we have another pure title match. This time, Doug Williams defending against Austin Aries, another Generation Next member. Another fun match, and the wrinkle that Aries added, that Shelley I don't think really took advantage of, is that Austin Aries figured out how to be a heel under these restrictions. Like it's pure division, it's pure wrestling, the art of sport, whatever the fuck. But Aries figured out how to circumvent the rules a little bit. Like, for example, the match gets underway, right? Or it's not even underway. They're in the middle of the ring. They do the ring introductions. The ref has the belt in the middle of the ring. He's showing it to both competitors. They're both looking at the belt. Aries and Doug Williams are. The ref turns around to hand the belt off to the timekeeper or whatever. And as the ref's back is turned, Austin Aries with a right hand close fist to the face of Doug Williams. And now remember, it is illegal under pure rules, but the ref didn't see it. So Aries hits Doug, but then Doug, he gets punched in the face. So what do you do when you get punched in the face? You punch the guy who punched you. So Doug Williams clocks Aries in the face, but for that, the ref saw it. So the ref gives Doug a warning, like, hey, Doug, you can't punch guys in the face. What are you doing? This is pure division. So Aries is riling Mr. Douglas Williams up. Throughout the match, Austin Aries is getting these sneaky little close fist punches in. Like, Aries has Doug in a headlock, and he's like turning his back to the ref, and he's like getting these short little punches in. He's being a little shithead. But Doug keeps like dumbly retaliating right in front of the ref. Like, have some subtlety, Doug. Come on now. But that's not his game. He's not a puncher, Doug Williams. He's a wrestler. Our world of sport, that's Doug Williams. He's not going to be punching blokes. But Austin Aries does, and that's the advantage Aries is trying to exploit here. But also, Doug is familiar with this match type, and Aries is not, and that's illustrated here because Doug has Aries in a hammerlock, which is a very conventional hold. It's not doing a lot of damage. But Aries, he's in this hammerlock, and he sees the rope, and he grabs it just because of instinct, right? You're a wrestler. You're in a submission. You have the rope right there. Grab it. But with these restrictions, Aries isn't used to this match type. He now has lost a rope break, and then he doesn't realize it until after he does it. And he's like, oh, nerds. So, match keeps going. Aries locks in a Moodle lock on a Doug Williams. Doug has to grab the ropes. So Doug eventually uses all his rope breaks. And so does Aries. So we're at this point at the end of the match where both guys have used all their rope breaks. And this allows Doug. Austin Aries goes to the top rope. Doug stops him. Crotches him on the top rope. And this allows Doug to lock in like he gets on the top rope with Aries and then locks in like a Becky Lynch disarmor type of move, like a reverse armbar type of thing within the ropes, all tied up in the ropes, so Aries can't go anywhere, so he has to tap out. Very similar to the initial win over Shelley. So Doug Williams is learning these rules. He's learning how to win under these guidelines, and he's establishing himself as a true champion. Initial title win and 2 defenses this month. So very impressive stuff from Doug Williams. And I love seeing the evolution of the pure rules, how to utilize the rope break rule, how to add psychology within to all of this stuff, how to be a heel within these pure. It's fun to watch the evolution of it. Watching guys kind of have fun with it. It adds a different texture to these cards, because sometimes you see these cards and it's like match after match after match and everything's kind of the same. But you had pure matches, pure title matches. They add a little bit of a different wrinkle to it, which I enjoy personally. So good stuff there from the pure division. And I think now is about time we close this bad boy out with maybe the feud of the month, perhaps. We got the Second City Saints in the former Prophecy. So that, like I mentioned earlier, the Second City Saints, where it's comprised of CM Punk, Ace Steel, and Colt Cabana. You got the former Prophecy and Dan Moff and BJ Whitmer. So we talked earlier about how Allison Danger got the cop killer as a result from getting shoved by Moff. Danger's been berating Moff and BJ, but also being like, hey, you guys should rejoin. She's trying to keep this Prophecy thing alive, but BJ and Moff want to be their own men. They don't want to be beholden to anybody, like they're their own leaders. So they're establishing themselves as their own entity as itself. So we got a couple crazy ass matches to close this bad boy out. So night 1, we got a Falls Count Anywhere match. BJ Whitmer and Dan Moff taking on the Second City Saints, represented by Ace Steel and Colt Cabana. So, and their commentary is billing this as the East Coast final chapter of this feud. So it's not the final match of this feud, but it's the final match on the East Coast of this feud. So when I hear that, I'm like, all right, I'm tuning out. It's a lot of crowd brawling and shit. It's like, I've seen this before, but these guys have had matches before. It's like, what else could they do that I haven't seen? Well, they find a way because they fight. It's pretty much all in the crowd, right? It's Falls Count Anywhere, so of course it is. They find this like balcony within the crowd, a second floor balcony, and they're trying to throw each other off of this balcony. They're trying to murder each other. It's like that escalated quickly. And eventually, Colt Cabana gets thrown off this balcony. And let me just lay out, just in case that didn't plant the emotion of that in your head. Let's hear what commentary thought of Colt Cabana getting thrown off the balcony.
Where's Cabana? Cabana just fell like 20 feet!
He still has to get his fucking catchphrase in. Dangerous! Fucking suck my dick, Gabe Sapolsky. Suck me soft, Gabe. Jeez Louise. All right, so Colt's dead. Anyways, no, so whatever. I don't even know who wins this match. Who the fuck cares? I think that just ends it. I think the match ends after that, because why wouldn't it? No, actually it doesn't. I'm sorry. Colt gets thrown off the balcony, and then Dan Moff hits Ace Steel with a big fucking spotlight, cracks it over his head, and then Gabe's like, that spotlight is red hot! Like, dude, shut up. Hits him with a spotlight, and gets the win. So Dan Moff and BJ Whitmer get the win here. And then the next match, Punk on commentary, he says he checked up on Colt. This is a very serious situation here. Punk goes and checks on Colt Cabana, and then he comes back and he lets us all know that Colt Cabana is fine because he was fortunate enough that when Colt Cabana got thrown off the balcony, he fell onto a group of skateboarders that were trying to watch the show for free. And they were all wearing helmets and pads, so it really braced his fall. So Colt Cabana's fine, everybody. Don't worry. Thanks for the update, Punker. But we're not done here. The Saints in the prophecy, former prophecy. What I'm just gonna call them the prophecy. The Saints in the prophecy. I mean, it's still very personal, and that was only the East Coast finale. When we get to the Midwest, we got the finale. But before we get there, we got to talk about the Second City Saints and the Briscoes from night 2. So the Second City Saints, CM Punk and Colt Cabana, are defending against the Briscoes. And I guess they weren't defending on night 1 because it wasn't Punk and Cabana. It was a Steel and Colt Cabana. I don't know. There's no Freebird rules, I guess. Who knows? But Punk Cabana versus the Briscoes. Great match. I mean, these guys have wrestled each other a bunch of times over the past few months, and I've covered a lot of it. It's all been good. But here we got a best 2 out of 3 falls match. And Jay hits the J Driller onto CM Punk for the 1-2-3 to get the first fall. And Punk is just completely absent for the second fall. That J Driller knocked him down for the count. So he was on the outside just napping. So Colt Cabana was in a 2-on-1 disadvantage for a while. But Colt, the master of the roll-up, rolls up Jay out of nowhere for the pin 1-2-3, which leveled it up at 1-1. Punk back in for the final fall. Saves Colt Cabana from the springboard doomsday device. Punk gets the hot tag. Everybody's diving all over the place. Everybody's hitting their big moves, big Yakuza kicks, enziguris all over the place. Mark Briscoe goes for the cutthroat driver on the Colt Cabana, but Punk saves him. And Punk hits the Pepsi plunge onto Jay Briscoe for the 1-2-3, getting the final fall and defending the tag team title successfully. Another good match. This match felt like it had another gear to it, but I don't know. It was good. It was fine for what it was. Ends with a handshake. Both teams are pretty much babyface at this point. Even though the Briscoes were kind of heelish during this match, the crowd loves the Briscoes. Crowd loves the Saints. By the way, that was the main event of night 2. And I just love seeing the tag team titles in the main event, getting that major spotlight. By the way, night 2 and night 3, there were no backstage promos, which I thought was very interesting. Very, I don't know, it just made the shows flow a little better, I think. They weren't trying to be too sports entertainery. They were just letting the wrestling speak for itself, which is what I think is where Ring of Honor thrives. So hopefully there's more of that in the future, because I liked how that made the show flow. But I mention that because that's the last thing you see. Typically in these Ring of Honor shows, you'll have like the final match, and then you'll have like 3 or 4 segments afterwards, and then it kind of just peters out. But this show ends. It fades to black with both guys shaking hands, both teams shaking hands. Huge Ring of Honor chants, and then it just fades out. Like it's just a simple, satisfying way to end the show. Loved it. But we're still in the midst of this Second City Saints prophecy feud. And this all culminates on night 3 in the finale, I guess. We had the East Coast finale. Now we have the actual end of this feud. It's an unsanctioned Chicago street fight. BJ Whitmer and Dan Moff versus Ace Steel and CM Punk. So at this point, we've seen the Saints and the Prophecy go at each other time and time again, several times, several different street fights and Falls Count Anywheres and whatever the hell, singles matches. Like, we had seemingly seen it all. So I kind of went into this match being kind of tired of this feud. Like, these matches weren't really gripping me. Like, they had the silly spot with Colt falling off the balcony, but otherwise nothing was really gripping me about this. But this match, man, this fucking match, fucking maybe up to this point, maybe the best street fight in Ring of Honor history up to this point. Perhaps. It's arguable. Top 3 at least. And this all starts out with Allison Danger. Because remember, she got her neck driven into the mat by a cop killer the previous night. So Allison Danger comes out before the match gets under, before anybody comes out. Allison comes out in a neck brace wearing a Prophecy t-shirt. She says that she made Moth and Whitmer. And she says that she can also end them. Huge shut the fuck up chants. I mean, Danger's got heat. Lots of heat. This crowd is none too pleased with Miss Allison Danger. And she's still on the mic. And for whatever reason, I don't know who gave her this authority, but she orders for certain weaponry to be brought out to the ring. She says, give me some tables, give me some ladders, and give me some barbed wire. Well, thankfully, this is already prepared. So we got like these stage hands like bringing out ladders and tables to the ring. And they also bring this fucking this plywood board with barbed wire on it. They carry this out to the ring. So it's like, oh shit, this is going to be something. And you know they had to think that too going into this match. It's like, what have we given these people that they haven't already seen? And they proceeded to give us just that. Something that we have not seen from these two. I will also note that all four of these guys, BJ, Moth, Steel, Punk, they all come out wearing jeans and white t-shirts, which is like, so it's so like cliche, but it's like, I get it. Gotta show the blood. But it's just funny how everybody was on the same page. We got a real bunkhouse brawl on our hands. Punk comes out, yells that somebody's gonna die, and then we're off to the races. By the way, it's a Chicago street fight. They're in Chicago. And even in 2004, Punk was like a fucking cult icon. It's crazy, dude. Crazy. So they get the initial advantage, having the home field advantage, so to speak. But Moth and BJ weather that initial storm. And they get control with chair shots. They rip off their belts. They're whipping the shit out of the Saints. Fighting on the outside. Both Punk and Steel are bloody. But then the Saints turn the tables. They grab the chairs. They beat up the Prophecy. They lay Moth's head in between the rungs of a ladder and do like a concerto. Like they hit the ladder with Moth's head smushed in between it. Brutal shit. There's one spot where I mean, let me even pull this up. You guys got to see this shit. So you see he's sitting in the corner with a table underneath his chin. Ace Steel then puts a chair in front of his face. Right? So like, what the fuck is going to happen here? Is this guy going to get decapitated? So, or break his neck. Good point, Mark Dickless or whatever your name is. So Punk grabs a ladder. Like, what the fuck? What human torture device are we building here?
What could they possibly be?
And Dan Moth is down on the floor.
Look at this shit. Moth's just a reminder. BJ's head is behind this chair with a table at his throat.
Blood.
Punk javelins this ladder into the chair, into BJ's face. Like, look at this shit. God, how do you... Bro. What the fuck? These guys are going at it. I asked the question earlier, what can these guys do that they haven't already shown us? Well, that is your answer. I mean, it's slow motion Jones over here. Let's bust this down to 0.5. There we go. I mean, he did not hold back at all with this ladder. How could you? Oh, jeez Louise, man. That's just... And that's what this match was, man. It was fucking brutal. It was innovative. That's good shit, though, man. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Everybody's bleeding at this point in the match. At this point where Punk grabs the barbed wire board that is ringside. I'm sorry, not the barbed wire board. The barbed wire 2x4. That's also ringside. I forgot to mention that earlier. It's a 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. very Cactus Jack-esque. Now he's hitting both Prophecy guys with it in the ribs and the shoulder, what have you. He's being very gentle with it, which leads me to believe that this is real barbed wire. You know, a lot of companies, they'll do the barbed wire, but they'll have like the rubber tipped barbed wire, quote unquote. TNA had that. Like if you watch a TNA match with barbed wire, they're just smashing each other, you know, full bore with it. And Punk is being very gentle because it's fucking barbed wire, which made it looked like aesthetically it didn't look as pleasing, but like it made you realize how real this shit was. Brutal stuff. Everybody's skin is getting ripped off with this barbed wire. But the Prophecy fights back. They take this board away from Punk. And BJ hits a white Russian leg sweep with this barbed wire board on a CM Punk. Then Moff grabs the barbed wire 2x4. Smashes Punk in the balls with it. Not gentle at all. Because fuck Punk and his stupid little balls is what Moff probably said. That's why this guy didn't have kids. Does the same thing to Ace Steel. He hits Ace Steel in the asshole with the barbed wire 2x4. It's like he didn't think the ball shot was strong enough, so he just did one little like jab right up his ass with the barbed wire. It was kind of hot. Now the Prophecy brings in the barbed wire board, so it's like a 5x5, whatever the fuck, plywood board with barbed wire on it. BJ Whitmer and CM Punk counter each other. They're fighting to suplex the other one into this barbed wire, but nobody does. Punk goes for a tornado DDT, but BJ counters and flings him chest and face first into this barbed wire. Sick, dude, sick. Punk ends up getting out of this barbed wire eventually, and the board is now set up in the corner, like up against the corner. And Dan Moff fucking cannonballs CM Punk through this board. So sending CM Punk through the board again with this barbed wire, while also having that big fuck Dan Moff just torpedoing towards you through this barbed wire. Now the board's it's in pieces, but Ace Steel still like kind of puts it back together in the corner, and then he throws Moff through the barbed wire. Chaos. Absolute chaos. All four guys are down. They all get up at about the same time. They all have chairs. And you know those spots in like every match, like every AEW match now where, you know, there's two guys in the ring. Forearm. Then the other guy comes back. Forearm. They like take turns forearming each other, you know, fighting spirit, etc., etc. So we get that spot here, but with steel chairs. So we have each team is looking at each other in the middle of the ring. They take turns hitting each other in the head with these chairs. The Saints hit the Prophecy at the same time in the head with these chairs. Prophecy, they aren't knocked down. They come back. They hit the Saints with the chairs. Moff and Whitmer, they're chopping each other, getting each other hyped up. They hit the Saints. But then the Saints come back with the final blow. They break the chairs over the head of the Prophecy, like wrapping it around their necks. And it's at this point where the crowd decides to rekindle some ECW nostalgia. The crowd litters the ring with steel chairs. Everybody in the crowd takes their chair, folds it up, throws it in the ring. The canvas is now littered with chairs. You can't even see the mat. It's all chair. It's all steel, or whatever the chairs are made of. But the guys in the ring are still wrestling. They're still doing these fucking suplexes, these German suplexes and brain busters onto these steel chairs, because that's all the mat is. Brutal, dude. Brutal. Dan Moff sets up a ladder bridge in the aisle. He has each end of the ladder on the barricades in the aisleway where they come out. BJ goes to splash Ace Steel through this ladder, but Punk stops him, rips him back in the ring, falls onto this sea of chairs, and then Punk ends up jumping off the top rope through Dan Moff through this ladder bridge in the aisleway. Didn't look pretty, but man, it was brutal. In the ring are Ace Steel and BJ Whitmer. Ace with a huge chair shot to BJ. Again, just wrapping around his head. There's another table, or the same table that was under BJ's chin earlier, still set up in the corner. BJ goes to hit the exploder suplex from the second rope onto Ace Steel through this table, but Ace counters it and tombstone pile drives BJ Whitmer off the second rope through the table onto the chairs underneath of it and gets the 1, 2, 3. So the Second City Saints win the match, and as Gabe Sapolsky puts it, they won the feud. Amazing stuff. I definitely recommend it if you can get your hands on this. Fantastic match. So fun. The energy was good. They're in Chicago. Second City Saints had so much support behind them. They hated the Prophecy. Very unique spots, brutal spots. It was a great way to culminate this feud that had been going on for so long. And like I said, it was just a series of street fights, this feud was. So it's like, how is this going to live up? How is this going to build off of the previous matches? Well, it found a way. I was a big fan of it. But you would think that'd be a great way to end the show. But I don't think so, Tim. Generation Next storms the ring. Just when you think we're done with them. Everybody's down in the ring, bloody. So now it's their opportunity. They attack the Second City Saints. Colt Cabana even comes in. He wasn't in the match, but he comes from the back to try to help the Saints. But the numbers are too much. Ricky Steamboat even gets in there to try to help out, but he's too old. And the last image of this month that you see is Colt Cabana, Ace Steel, CM Punk, and Ricky Steamboat all laid out in this ring, bloody, in a bed of chairs and barbed wire and tables and ladders. Just utter carnage. They're all laid out, and Generation Next stands tall. Whew. Great shit, dude. By the way, I forgot to mention, they taped Ricky Steamboat to the ropes to make him watch this beatdown as the Saints get brutalized by Generation Next. I mean, come on now, dude. We open up this episode talking about the Rottweilers and the effectiveness of that build. Now we got Generation Next. I mean, two great factions. I said it earlier, but that really drives it home, I think. They're here, they're queer, and get used to it, is what I'm saying. So, great shit. I mean, I'm excited for the future of Ring of Honor with these two factions kind of as a running thread through everything. The Pure title's in a great place. Samoa Joe's still cooking with his world title reign. He'll be defending against Trent Acid at the next show, who won a couple scramble matches throughout the month, which I didn't really touch on, but Trent Acid's on a hot streak at this point, so we're going to be seeing that. Next month, Bryan Danielson's going to be back next month. It's getting good, man. It's getting fucking good, and I really enjoyed this month of Ring of Honor, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Apron Month covering it. Appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. Like, subscribe, rate, review. You know all the deals. Follow me. Join the Discord. With that, that's about all I got for you. Appreciate you guys once again. Love you, love you. See you next week. Mwah. I'm hard.
Yeah. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started.